Hey, we're going to have our 500th show today, and we're going to do it breaking it in with a talented man that has worked with everybody from the Ramones, John Waite, even Sonny's favorite band, In Sync, he worked with. And did I mention Kiss? And
Yes.
We're going to do that today on Podcast Rock City Live. What's up, everybody? Joe here from Podcast Rock City. And with me this week, Sonny Hollywood Booney.
All refreshed. Just woke up from a nap. If you know, you know.
Oh, my God. Right down there is the man, the myth, the legend, Joey Casada.
Yo, welcome back, everyone, to the #1 rated Kiss podcast in the land. Sonny Pooney, you dirty bastard, I hate you.
All right, and right down there is Mr. Jean Beauvoir. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you guys. What's going on?
We're so excited. Yeah, we're so excited that you're here. We got so much to talk about. We're gonna do a little bit of news, but it's personal to me. So let's go ahead and get to the news.
Podcast Rock City News.
I know somebody's going to email me and go, how could you do 500 shows about one band? And I go, well, I'm just going to tell them, well, you just don't know us.
I thought you were going to say, because I'm a homer.
I am a homer. But that's okay. I love Kiss. We love Kiss. We're going to talk about them until you get tired of hearing us talk about it. We love Kiss. And it's a lot of fun. And really what this is more about is us being able to hang out together every week, talk about our favorite band. And it's just a lot of fun. If you would have told me 12 years ago that I would be sitting here with Jean Beauvoir, getting ready to do a show with Joey Casada, with Sonny. Lee isn't here, unfortunately, today. But if you would have told me 12 years ago, I'd have been like, you're crazy. The fact that we're all here together 12 years later is amazing. I do want to thank everybody that's ever been involved with the show. D-Rock, Jody, Lee, Rick, H-U-N Sucka, rest in peace, buddy. His son, Trey. When we first did the show, Luke, our buddy Luke, had a studio in the basement. We did it the first 3 shows there. A friend of mine, Dave, did the shows after that. I just decided to keep going and started to do the shows on my own. 500 shows. We've talked to everybody from Gene Simmons. We've talked to Eric Singer. We've talked to Michael James Jackson, Bruce Kulick. The names go on forever. Brent, who was on the show when we had a radio show. He used to do it with Sonny. He was a huge part of this. Andrew Kiss, and Kiss is his real last name. He was just a kid when we got started. He was only 20. I don't know. He's like 32 now. It's, that's how time has flown. So I just want to make sure I tell everybody that's watching this or will be watching this, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. We appreciate the fact that you take an hour out of your day or week every year and come and hang out with us and just talk about Kiss. And sometimes we get sidetracked. And we're going to today. I promise you, there's a lot to talk about. And how we're going to do that. Enough about this show, because I want to talk to that guy right there. So let's go ahead and get to the topic of the week.
Podcast Rock City Topic of the Week.
All right, so we could really, there's so many, this show is like a 40-layered cake. There's so much to it just because of the gentleman on the screen with us. He has worked all and everything. He's
he is the icing. He's the icing on our cake.
Yeah, well, I like that better. I like that better. A writer, producer, everything, musician, and I'm going to start in a place that I like to start. What made you decide I'm going to be a bass player?
When my dad threw my drums out the door.
So you were a drummer first.
I actually started as a drummer. That was my favorite instrument at the beginning. And all jokes aside, actually, my dad one day got tired of it. And actually, literally, they were upstairs. He had stairs that led right out to the front door. One day, he came home, opened the front doors, kicked them right down, right out the front door.
Whoa.
He said, "That's it. I never want to see those things in here again."
Amazing.
My dad was from Haiti. He was a very conservative kind of, so there's no more drums. That's it. So that was the end of that.
Do you remember what kind of drums they were?
Ludwig.
Oh,
that's Joey.
They were Ludwig because I got them. I started really young, messing around, like buying and selling mini bikes and little car, all kinds of go-karts and stuff like that. So I had traded one for a drum set, and that's when it started. Somebody had a drum set. Then the drum set went, and my brother had a bass laying around, and I just started, I'm going to stop fiddling with his bass. And that's how it started.
Amazing.
That's amazing. Joey?
No, dude, that's so cool. I never knew that about you. You were a drummer originally. Do you still play a little?
Yes, I do. I'm not great anymore, but I was okay.
Have you, obviously you've recorded and written so many tracks over the years with so many artists. Have you ever laid down drum tracks that we don't know about, like a ghost drummer somewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. On all my records.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Pretty
Amazing.
Much. Not all, but most. Yeah, all the solo records for sure. And some of my Crown of Thorns records. That's
great. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did some stuff actually. Well, I worked with Stephen Van Zandt for a while, so did some stuff playing drums with him back in the day. I was pretty good with the click. That was a problem with a lot of people,
Yeah, timing is everything.
Timing is everything.
Yep. So I always said you want a drummer that's a clock.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And you learned that early on. So how about you, Joey? So how did your whole thing start, if you don't mind me asking you?
Yeah, listen, I do a Kiss podcast, so you know where my story starts. I saw Kiss. I was 5 years old. Dynasty tour, Madison Square Garden. Saw Peter Criss. My life changed. I knew I had to play the drums the rest of my life.
And he was 5. Hey, Sonny, could you show the CD you were showing earlier?
Oh, yeah.
You guys check this out.
What year was that? What year, Joey?
79.
That's a tough one to get right there.
Huh. I'm trying to think if I was at that Madison Square Garden. Oh, the Crown of Thorns record.
Crown of Thorns. Sonny, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, so, we're going to get to probably a bunch of different questions, but, I've heard you say that you met Paul at the club Heartbreak, right?
Yes.
Heartbreak, right?
Yeah.
But
where was Heartbreak? That was in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Dance
was that?
club.
It was like a diner. downtown, if I remember correctly. I don't remember what street it was on, but yeah, it was Heartbreak. It was like a diner, and everybody kind of hung out there. It was like, you know, back in the day, Brooke Shields would be there. You have actors there. You have musicians there. Everybody would kind of hang out there and just go dance around. It was like kind of a dance club, kind of a, you know, playing old 70s disco stuff.
Yeah. When I was hearing that, I'm like, okay, so that timing has got to be 81, 82. Somebody tells you this dude is Paul Stanley. How do you know that they're telling the truth? Because you don't know.
Great point.
Oh, that's it again? When I walk into him, you mean?
Yeah. Well, when somebody introduces you to Paul, since we're talking 82-ish probably, he's still in makeup. So you don't know that's Paul.
He walked over. We were like, kind of like, I don't remember exactly, but it was something like, he said, "Hey, you're that guy from the Plasmatics." And I looked at him and I was like,
who the hell are you?
I wasn't sure. He said, and I think he might have said, "I'm Paul Stanley from Kiss." He might have said it like before I had a chance to you know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't obvious, like you said.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. But then I believed him. You know, and then that's it. And then from there, we actually just got along and started hanging out. And we were just like, oh, let's we'll exchange numbers. I don't know, there's a great, like this great place that makes the greatest desserts called Serendipity. This place was incredible. I think that's the first place we went to. Wow. It was a place on like 52nd Street. They had these ice cream desserts that were like just huge, things I've never seen before in my life. So we did that, and then let's go up to Columbus and go hang out there. Or let's go to, go to that restaurant. Or there's this club happening, and that was it. We were doing that probably for a year and a half before we even touched the guitar.
Were you a big MTV fan?
Huh?
Were you a big MTV fan?
Yeah, I always watched MTV, of course. Yeah. Back in those days, yeah.
So you meet this guy. He's supposed, he says he's Paul Stanley. I guess you got to believe him. But then they decide to take the makeup off. Like, does it even register with you that they're making this huge change? Because you were a Kiss fan at the time.
Yeah, but different, because I was on another side of it. Yeah. So we'd be discussing this stuff, and so he'd be explaining that, we're going to do this. We're going to go for a different look. I'm doing this. And so, of course, as a friend, you're supportive. I was like, great, and so, matter of fact, we spent a lot of the time that we spent together hanging out was probably buying clothes.
That's interesting.
Really, we spent so much time on fashion. Oh, where'd you get that jacket? Where'd you get that jacket? Oh, I got to get one. Oh, I got to get one. It's funny.
Where was your go-to shops?
Here's something funny. I was just looking. Here's a picture that's on this boat. I was looking for a place to put it. It's an old picture of Paul and I at Live Aid.
Oh, yeah.
See it?
I mean, how the hell do you look exactly the same?
Look what we...
Dude, you don't age. It's insane.
I realize it now. We laugh about it. I got both baggy pants.
Yeah. What's that? 85, right? That's 85?
Yeah, was that 85?
Live Aid, so. Live Aid is 85.
And that's it. So you went through all these different looks. And one day it's the baggy pants thing. Next time it was a leather jacket. Next time it was fur jackets. Next thing, he had quite the sense of style. There's no doubt.
The 80s.
So that's
the 80s.
That was the
amazing.
thing that we connected on, if you wanted the truth. A lot of vibe, style, things. We love that fashion. And the Kiss, of course, they were nobody better than they about that stuff.
Absolutely. Joey?
Where was your go-to shops with Paul, like to shop for fashion and stuff? I grew up in New York, so did you like go down 8th Street, all those shops down there? Where were your shops?
Yeah, for sure. I had a really good connection down there. What's that place? The West Village. The main
Trash
place.
and Vaudeville was down there.
Vaudeville.
Yeah,
right,
sure.
Right. I'd always get stuff from there. But we would do, believe it or not, we'd find things like on the Upper West Side, Upper East Side, like we'd find like cool jackets that might have leopard in them or might have different things. But for the most part, for any real cool stuff, you'd have to have it made.
Of course.
It was really difficult to find clothes off the street.
Exactly what you're...
Funny you mentioned, I didn't even mean to have this open, but I'm looking. Strange. Why is this picture on my thing? I don't even understand. I think I was looking at Facebook. See that picture? Like, that's a wild outfit from a band, Voodoo X.
Wow.
Right, right.
The whole thing is sequenced up and down. It's got hearts. I forget, it's crazy, and rhinestones all over.
Yeah.
It's a pretty
Gotta
wild
be
outfit.
all custom, right?
It was all custom made.
Yeah.
That was made by some girl in Sweden, for example. You know, so it's always been hard to find really cool stuff. Drummers are easier because you don't have to wear as much.
Yeah, that's
Nobody
awesome.
sees
Cool
us.
vest and you're rocking.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Obviously, you have this is with your connection with Paul and with the band Kiss. The first time Paul comes to you, did he come to you and say, "Hey, let's write a song," or did you go, "Hey, I got a riff," or how did that work out?
We actually, like I said, really started on a friend level, and we didn't even though I was doing my music, he was doing his thing. He'd involve me on things. Oh, I'm going to the management office to go talk about this. You want to come? Oh, I'm going to that kind of stuff. But we never really did a lot of music at the beginning. And at that time, if I remember correctly, Paul would keep things pretty separate. It wasn't like he has his private life and music life. So and I was a little bit like that with because I think at the time I was playing with Little Steven, for example. So, you know, spoiled, we had guitar techs, and so I never saw guitar until I was ready to go on tour or rehearsing. It wasn't like it was in my house, I had amps in my house. You know, it wasn't like that. And he was the same. There were no instruments in his house. There was nothing at all in the apartment. So it's just one day, I think he just came out with an acoustic guitar, and he said, he started strumming something. I remember going to the bathroom, I heard something, I came back out, I heard a melody, and I said, oh, and then that was it. And then we started. We sat on the couch, ordered Chinese food, and started writing.
What was the first thing? Was it? I mean, I know obviously, was Animalized that first spot, like Thrills in the Night, that stuff?
Thrills in the Night. That was the first one. That's that song.
And I mean, just a weird coincidence. That's the first song I ever like fully learned on the drums. Thrills in the Night.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
It's a pretty weird song to like. I don't know why I dove into that first, but you know, because Eric's doing a lot of that 16th note stuff and on the hi-hat. It's not a straightforward rock beat.
None of the songs I wrote for Kiss are, and I realized that I've had a lot of trouble getting bass players to play the songs. Because I realize it's kind of it's not that it's so difficult. It's the timing. You're a drummer, so you understand what I'm saying. I do a lot of things on the upbeat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even doing rock stuff, your bass parts are doing things that rock players are not accustomed to doing. So I'll see even sometimes when Kiss will play the song live, Gene will just simplify it and just do straights. He'll take out the accent.
Sure.
Like who wants to be alone? I forgot what it is off the top of my head, but all night even. Well, yeah, kind of. It still has a little syncopation, and people have trouble with.
Well, you know what? It's so funny you mentioned those songs because I play. I mean, I know you jammed with Chris Jericho in Quarantine at Kiss Cancer Goodbye when we hung out.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
I play with them sometimes too. And some of those songs that I play with them, and some of the ones that are the hardest to kind of capture are things like Who Wants to Be Lonely, All Night. It's so funny. Like you said, it's all that upbeat 16th note stuff on the up that people don't realize what's going on, but it's very dancey underneath that rock stuff.
That's exactly it. And I think it's something, I think it's a part of my writing. I do that even in the Plasmatics. We had a song called Master Plan. If you go back and listen to that bass part, it's like, it's very, you wouldn't think it's a punk kind of a thing. So, and I think that's what Paul and I liked about working together. He's got kind of a little bit of a soul background. Anyways, he's a soulful guy, you know? So, well, you heard his last album, that R&B album. That's something we common. They were playing that kind of stuff at Heartbeat, Heartbreak, that kind of stuff. And he has that sensibility too. So that's why when we wrote songs, it was always very easy. It just fell into place. He'd play a groove and then I'd play a bass part that kind of, it's kind of more production than just playing a bass part because it kind of makes the song, like you said, makes it danceable, makes it groove. It's about the groove. That's the whole thing.
Absolutely.
It's about the groove.
You still do some of these songs live?
Yeah, I do. I do Who Wants to Be Lonely and All Night.
Oh,
for sure.
you did.
Yeah.
You did Who Wants to Be Lonely with Quarantine, right?
Yeah,
it was
All Night,
it
I
was
thought.
That's
killer.
right.
So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
my favorite '80s Kiss song. That's my favorite '80s Kiss song.
Oh, wow.
And
You're
what's
just
so
saying
funny,
that 'cause you're on this.
dude, I go back and listen to some of our shows. I say it all the time. What I don't understand about that song is, obviously it was a single on the Animalizer, on the Asylum record, and then but for some reason they never played it live. Do you think it's because they couldn't capture that feel? Because I'll tell you, that feel is a pain in the ass.
It is a pain in the ass. I'll tell you this, and you're not wrong. I have problems with my bands. Honestly, always. It's very, very difficult to
Yeah.
get. Even if you think they got it, then all of a sudden you go in front of them
Yeah.
and they're all over the place. Because you know what it is? It's like I said, it's a little bit of a producer kind of sensibility. Like sometimes I'll have bass playing where the kick's not, you know, and the kick answers the bass, you know what I'm saying, and it creates a groove. You know exactly what I mean. It creates a groove, and people are not accustomed to that. Sometimes they're like, no, it's supposed to just be that's where the bass is, that's where the kick comes. You know what I mean? But you know, it's very, very much the same sometimes in hip hop or in R&B or in funk. You know, there's something that makes those grooves that are infectious. You know, remember those old 70s kind of funk songs, whatever, like Rick James and this and that. You just listen to the groove. They don't even have to sing, and you're going to be dancing.
Yeah.
All you guys that are watching right now, thank you. First of all, thank you. We all thank you for being here. I wanted to make sure that you guys all knew that if you could go to jeanbeauvoir.com and check it out. He has everything on you. His book. Tell everybody about your book.
Okay, it's called Bet My Soul on Rock and Roll. Good thing is it's the only thing named that, so it's easy to find. That's strange. That's a very strange thing that there's nothing else named Bet My Soul on Rock and Roll. Very strange. But anyways, it kind of goes through my whole life. It starts from me as a kid, you know, in New York, in the streets and everything that, you know, all the ups and downs of the music business and my experiences. I think that there's a lot to learn from the book, you know, a lot of things not to do, things to do. You know, it's always good to learn from other people's mistakes. And I kind of I get into everything, and I guess I've been around longer than I thought, so it's got quite a bit of information and spans.
Oh, that's a great shot! Look at that.
Yeah, love that.
Oh, that's right. We did that for the charity.
That's right.
I love the way you did that. That was pretty cool. And that's it. So you can pick up the book. You can pick up an autographed copy or just pick up the book on pretty much anywhere, Amazon, all the online stores, or even you can order it from your local bookstore as well. So awesome. Check it out. See if you like
Sonny?
it.
Yeah. So Jean, okay, so we were talking about the Plasmatics a little bit, and you know there was a look. Every one of you guys had a different look, right? And you talked about fashion a little bit, and you know this business is a little bit visual, no doubt.
Yep.
Has the Mohawk been a blessing and a curse? Like it gave you your life, but then there's certain people think you can't do certain things because of the Mohawk.
Yeah, you know, you're probably, that's funny you mentioned that, because for a while I wanted to get into acting, and actually the funny thing is probably the biggest mistake is I was cast by the producer of The Mask.
I love that movie, Jim Carrey.
To be one of the leads, right? It was Jim Carrey's first film. The producer kept seeing me out in clubs in LA and kept telling me about this film. And he sent me the first script. He didn't have it financed. He sent me the second script. And then finally one day he calls me and he says, okay, I'm financed. And I've got Jim Carrey and I've got this cool girl. He showed me a reel on her, Cameron Diaz. He said, I think she found her in Arizona or someplace. And he said, yeah. And then just, I don't know, something happened. It was a weird time. I was in the middle of a deal with Interscope, some issues, blah, 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 wife, whatever. Anyways, I didn't get back in time to start the filming, and then that was it. Next thing you know, the film came out, was a huge smash.
Jesus.
Anyways, then I'm like, hey, you doing a mask too? He was like, come on. Yeah, I've been chasing your ass for 3 years. But it's the way it goes. But I'm losing my train of thought here. Okay, the Mohawk. So for that, actually, he wanted the Mohawk. He wanted that particular look. But for a lot of other things, you wonder, can you do that? You can't do that. But I've always felt more comfortable with the Mohawk because I've had it for so long. And I've always had a really hard time. I tried other looks. I tried the shaved head. I did a black the thing in the back, like a samurai. No matter what you do, you get accustomed to. When you have it for so many years, it's a part of you. The way you dress, the way things look on you. Imagine you lost 6 inches.
Yeah.
You lose 6 inches up here. Everything changes. All perspective.
So
Joey never had 6 inches, so it doesn't matter.
Whoa.
Exactly.
John, Sonny has always looked like the schlub that you see right now, so he doesn't know anything about no style, no nothing.
All right, so let's talk about so when you writing with anybody really, but we're obviously talking about Kiss, so let's talk about Paul Stanley. When you're writing that kind of collaboration, is it can it be stressful? Like, you're writing with Paul Stanley, he's writing with you. Are you guys not afraid to look at each other and go, I don't like that? Or is there pushback,
There was some growing pains at the beginning. When I say growing pains, is that whenever I write with an artist, whoever it is, I look at it like I get into that band for a minute and try to get it into their head and try to help them deliver the message that they're trying to deliver with my assistance. If you know what I'm saying. Sometimes you end up writing, a lot of the songs, but still, it doesn't matter. It's the same idea. You're still trying to get them to be, for the Ramones to be hopefully an improved or a varied version of the same level or more of what they've done before, So for example, if you work on lyrics, Paul's he's a stickler on lyrics, and because those guys are very professional with what they do. They wouldn't be where they are if they weren't. They know what they're doing, and they spend the time that's necessary. And it doesn't matter if it's a song about all night. Paul and I could sometimes spend hours on the phone. I remember laying in my bed, and he'd be laying as they were going, all night. Ooh, all night.
Right.
But I'm exaggerating about that title. But about lyrics, that doesn't sound quite right. That doesn't sound quite right. What do you think? Okay. Sometimes we spend some time on those lyrics, a lot more than you'd think. You just think, let's look at it again tomorrow. Let's discuss. Desmond came in at some point where I took a look at some things, so it was like, a guy gave his opinion. So that sometimes could be a little stressful. But after a while, we got into a groove. Because besides the stuff we wrote with Kiss, we wrote stuff for Voodoo X, we wrote stuff for Crown of Thorns, we wrote extra songs separately. Matter of fact, we had another song we wrote, like an R&B song, and Lordy ended up just doing it a couple of years ago and having a hit over in Germany with this song, Like a Beat to the Honey, which is like almost like a I Was Made for Loving You disco kind of song that they just put out. So I think we enjoyed, I enjoyed writing with Paul. It got comfortable, if you know what I'm saying. But it's always a little stressful writing because you're always battling to make sure you have something that's great. You don't want to leave with something that sucks. So that's stressful.
Was there ever a time where you guys disputed who wrote what and how much credit to get on a song and nothing like that ever? Wow, really?
No, not for credit like that. We did 50-50 on the
great
song. At the very beginning, the very beginning, for Thrills in the Night, I didn't get my publishing, which I was not happy about.
Is that right?
And that was literally, I think that might have been one of the first songs that I ever wrote for an outside person.
So was that like the growing? So I know a lot of the times that happens, the growing pains, like that's the test. Okay, we'll test you. You're not going to get the credit you deserve. The song does well. Now we're going to keep writing. And then now you get
you still got the credit, because at that point, I still, I was, let me see, 82. I'm trying to think if I had written with Nona Hendrix yet or anybody else. It was the beginning of my writing for outside people. So that was kind of a big break. And sometimes at the beginning you got to eat a little bit. Just the way it is. Everybody does it. You know what I mean? It's like people
so
with the biggest
was there a time after that? Like, so you didn't get all the full publishing on Thrills of the Night. What was the second song you guys tackled? And was that kind of talked about, or it was just now it was 50-50?
Who Wants to Be Lonely and All Night were the next two.
Okay.
From there, at that point, I think already I was moving along. I had written for a few people by then.
Right.
And I think John Wayne, Platinum, this one, that. So at this point, it was like, okay, now I've got my legitimate publishing company. It's a no-brainer. This is how it goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that was, and then we just went that way. And that was it, Yeah, why people have had problems or something.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I've had problems, of course. I mean,
I
think everyone has gone through those little growing pains, or someone thought they wrote this and got shafted on their publishing or whatever it was. But I was curious to see has it ever happened? Like, you've written for so many different artists. Anything else, like any other horror stories? I know you don't have to mention names, but were there like some spots where like, oh, I thought I did this and you didn't give me any, I didn't get any publishing for this.
Yeah, I mean, there have been, I think there were times in the past where maybe you'd be a little too generous. Like somebody would come with such a little part, like sometimes the Ramones, a little part of a song, and then you end up arranging it and putting chords to it and doing this to it. And basically you end up writing the song, but maybe you don't take that for that. That hasn't happened often with them. But in general, I think the biggest problem with that, after a while, I just kind of set my rules. After the Kiss thing, and after you develop a certain thing, and you say that's it. And even sometimes you have to put your foot down, because in Europe, especially, I did a lot of writing in Europe. In other words, where you'd go to these literally songwriting camps. Like I used to judge a songwriting camp for Universal with the head of Universal over there, and whoever would win would get a publishing deal with Universal, etc. So they'd have like 20 studios set up, all these different writers. You have 4 guys work in one room that day, 20, all these different guys working in different rooms. Then you work for 4 hours. The song's got to be finished by the afternoon. Then you switch. It's very common over there. The one thing I never really liked about that system is that you have 4 or 5 people in the room. And sometimes it's a guy who's a manager, sometimes a guy who's dancing, but they have their arrangement that they split everything.
Sure.
Because which I understand, because maybe if they're part of an organization, they're each contributing a certain way. But then I come in, let's say, in a songwriter, and I write half the song or maybe 3/4 of the song. That wouldn't be fair. So then in cases like that, I kind of tell people, you know what, you can have whatever thing you got going on there, but I get 50%.
Yeah.
If I wrote 50% of the song.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
So one of the things that I've been told to ask is, for you, those of you that don't know, Keith LaRue got with me this week and was like, would you like to have Jean on? And I was like, hell yeah. He goes, he's got some good Paul Stanley stories.
Uh-oh.
So
you're not gonna get dirt out of me.
Can you give us a fun story? It doesn't necessarily have to be dirt.
Let me think. It was fun stuff. God, I did so many things in the day.
How did he dance? He obviously went out. Can he dance?
What a great question.
He can't.
Fool.
There's no way.
Absolutely. You see him dance on stage. After dancing, the both of us, I think, ended up doing on stage was we got from those clubs. You have to dance for those girls back in the day.
Yes. Yeah.
You know
so
what I mean?
so you're on record now
dancing
saying
for 4 hours.
So you are on record saying Paul Stanley, good dancer.
Oh, absolutely. He's a good dancer now. Because we were dancing all those R&B. It was pretty funny because it's so contrasty to what you would think that's another thing we had in common. Yeah, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
I always liked we all like things that are like opposite, very opposite to what you do. I think that makes you appreciate what you do in a way. You know, it's kind of like, so in other words, we leave a show and you want to go to the coolest disco club, posh, mostly because at the time it was the most beautiful girls. That's the bottom line.
Right.
But and then you just live that kind of life. What can I say about Paul that was interesting, that I found interesting? Oh, here's a funny story. I remember walking into his apartment one day. Okay, I can tell you this, I think. And so we first met. And he had these lamps, they're Tiffany-looking lamps and stuff like that. And I was just coming out of the Plasmatics. So the guy said, "Oh, those lamps are nice. They're really nice. Yeah, I'm going to get a couple of those." And he said, "Yeah, they're $40,000 each."
Oh my God!
Wow.
$40,000 to light.
I think that was the price at the time. It was $40,000 each. Those
Tiffany
lamps that have the stained glass things. I was like,
insane.
Go pick up a couple at Costco. But I'm joking. But you know what I mean? It's like,
I know nobody will ever believe me, but I have 4 upstairs.
Oh yeah.
Are you serious?
No.
You know what I'm talking
Are you crazy?
I do know what you're talking about, though.
Are you guys familiar, actually?
Oh yeah, Tiffany lamps. Actually, I think he talked about it in his book. I think he talked about having an apartment that was empty, and he bought a Tiffany lamp and he sat next to it, just turning it on and turning it off and turning it on. And I remember thinking, that's what you did in your apartment when you're Paul freaking Stanley. But whatever, at the time that was fun. It was $40,000 for a lamp. Sonny, got a question?
I'd never spent $40,000.
But that's the thing. It's so funny to me. Like that type of stuff. I don't care how much money you make in a year or a lifetime, whatever it is. I can't see myself ever buying $40,000 lamps. It's something where I'm like, you know what? Nope, not for me. I'll take, you said, I'll take the Costco lamps. They're good enough.
I'll get the one that looks like the $40,000.
Yeah. That's what we have.
Because they were nice, but were they $40,000 nice?
You know what? At the end of the day, you realize it's a different thing. Really, a lot of those things are investment. Probably that thing they bought, knowing Paul, if you bought it for 40, it's worth 180.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah,
I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's like it's almost like art. It's like art. Yeah. It's like real estate.
Right.
It's like some people like to buy, all these expensive Rolexes, but they know that they can sell them. It's mostly investments.
Right.
Some people just waste money
well, that's a great question. Do you think Paul's thinking like that back then? Or is he thinking people that come over?
I want to impress them.
I want to impress them with my $40,000 lamps. And he feels like that's the kind of mindset he was in back then.
I think it was both.
Yeah, sure.
The one thing, to tell you the truth, I would say Paul was always prudent. Always prudent. I mean, there's one thing that he told me at the very beginning, and we started hanging out. I was spending money like crazy. I remember I had limos going, especially after limos on call, girl. I was just ridiculous things. And one day Paul told me, "Jean, you're spending more money than me, and I'm in Kiss." He said, "The bottom is gonna fall out."
So let me ask you this. This is something that's interesting here. There are two people on this show have worked with somebody with the last name Stallone. So, yeah. Whoa. So Joey over here worked with the brother. Joe, it's Frank. Joey Stallone, right?
Frank Stallone. Frank.
No, Frank.
What's the matter with you?
No, he told you. No, he told you you're
yes.
Joey Stallone.
Well, so I had a TV show back in 2010, and Frank was a guest star, and he was amazing. The guys on the show always kind of joked that I looked like a Stallone, but never good enough to be Sly. Always probably more like Frank. And it was kind of like the bit on the show that we did. So Frank was incredible, and we did this whole bit where I was an honorary Stallone brother.
Okay, so now I remember being a kid and seeing the video for Feel the Heat. I just told Jean before we got started, it was only a few years ago where I saw the video and went, oh my God, it's the same guy.
It's so
I had no idea back then, but it makes sense. You had the mohawk, you know what I mean? It was like, that's your look. And
people
you
get
know,
confused.
it's really amazing. How did you hook up with you've done a bunch of movie soundtracks.
Yeah, I've done.
Yeah. How did you get hooked up with Cobra?
Complete chance and luck.
Wow.
You know, life is weird how it works, you know, because I was trying to get a record deal for a long time. Nobody would sign me. You know, it was just nobody. It was ridiculous. And finally, I ended up working with Steven, you know, for a while. And I'm not going to go back to that. But I went to that. And he told me, come play with me. You know, I turned down a lot of people, some great gigs, because I wanted to be a solo artist. But nobody wanted to sign me. Said, if you want to blow up cars, fine. But you want to sing? That was pretty funny to everybody. Anyways, so one day after I finally get signed, you know, after the whole thing, you know, I finally get signed in England by Richard Branson to Virgin. And then things just started to move. It went from dead, almost over. I had an offer for a singles deal from ABBA in Sweden. I was about to get on a plane and go make that deal. So sick. Everybody turning me down and everything I'd been going through. And just before leaving, just a big publicist told me, meet this one manager. And then that led to him, this guy, Gary Kerr first. Next thing, well, I'm Richard Branson's Riverboat. He loves you. Come over. You know, he wants to give you a record company. I'm like, what? I mean, 3 weeks ago, nobody would. Wow. I couldn't get anything.
Wow.
You know, he loves it. And then so I came over. And then from there, then next thing you know, he tells me, oh, there's this guy, Al Teller at Columbia. He heard the record. He loves it too. So let's meet with him. So next thing you know, I got a deal at Columbia. And then we're editing the video for Feel the Heat in Burbank at the Warner Brothers studio. Don't even ask me why. Mary Lambert, who did my video, did Donna videos. She did a lot of great things and some films. And so she was just editing my video. And there happened to be a Cobra in there. Just coincidence. He's walking by the studio, sees my video, hears the song.
Come on.
Calls my management office and says, that is the new song for my next film.
Unbelievable.
I want that to be the track, the commercial.
Dude, that is. But isn't that so how the entertainment business works? People always ask, well, how do you do this and how do you get that? You just keep plugging away.
That's it.
You keep putting out product, and if it's quality, people eventually see it. God, that's insane that's how that happened.
I agree. If I really could, I say that to myself. I can't tell you that I plotted out everything that's ever happened, pretty much one after the other. I've always been some kind of chance being at that place, but you have to have your stuff together to be able to, to respond when the opportunity comes.
And usually when you do plot stuff out, you plot it out, it never works out the way you think it's going to be. It's always something that you never ever thought was going to happen triggers because you're just following your path. You're doing great things and someone hears you and sees you and wow, what an incredible story.
It's really crazy. I was completely shocked. That came out of nowhere. And like I said, it went from like a couple of bad years, where it was like really like you were like really like that's it. I'm done. It's over. There's no chance of this. You feel like when you're young, even though it's 2 years, 3 years, you feel like it's an eternity.
Oh, sure.
You've been trying to get things together.
Oh, I'm sure.
Sonny's felt like that for 30 years.
Yeah. Right. No, my thing is the same, man. You do your thing and be ready to go if luck happens. So you can take advantage of the luck. That's all there is to it.
So you think the same thing? Because I'm very spiritual. I'm coming from a whole voodoo background and everything. And
voodoo spiritual?
Of course it is. It's not just, but just spiritual thinking of just believing in things like that. And I believe in that. I think that's what I do. I find myself saying that to myself. Just do your thing, because as the older you get, the more time goes by, the more you want to control things. You know what I mean? It's like you're kind of like, oh well, I know that if I do this, it's going to lead to that. It's going to lead to. Most of the time, you're wrong. You know what I mean? And then something else comes out of nowhere.
So we've got a lot of viewers here, and I've got a lot of questions that they've been adding on here. So I'm going to try to run through some of them for you guys. Let's start here with this one. Would Robert Vital, or I don't know, I know you, Robert, and I just said your name
Vitaly, what's the matter with you?
I'm sorry.
Vitaly.
Would love to know any Ramones meets Kiss stories Jean might have. Animal Boy is killer.
Thank you. Well, now how those two meet, that I don't know, because they are quite opposite. The only way they meet, I guess, is just being as extreme as they are in their own area. But they're very different in personalities, and like I said, Paul and Gina have always been very organized and systematic, and this, but rock stars. The Ramones were wild and crazy and for real. Kind of it was a really difficult production. I loved doing it, but it was a difficult production. I remember I was pulling my hair out because, you have the record company that expects a certain thing from you. Just make the record great. We want hits, your manager. But then each guy has a completely different personality. So Joey, oh, I love piano, I like strings. Johnny's like, you put that, I'll kill you. And then you got Dee Dee over there, this person out. But I love them all. We became really close making that record. Joey and I went to Sweden together. I brought him to record at Polar Studios over there, because that was a place where I was doing a lot of work after I made my deal. But it was, it worked out. It was a process. I don't really know how to answer that, how the two meet, but I'm glad you like Animal Boy. It was a process. I like what we ended up with in the end of the day, because I think that record was a balance of trying to keep the true Ramones in certain places, and then with singles like Bonzo Goes to Bitburg, or Something to Believe In, or other songs that we did, we tried to make a departure. Same thing with Pet Sematary and Merry Christmas. I kind of just do what you feel. There's bells on that record. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, but that's the beauty of music, right? It's art.
Yeah. We make fun of it all the time. Kiss homers. I say Kiss homers all the time. Okay. The Army's nuts. There's no doubt about it. We're part of that nutty Army, so I know the Army's nuts. Do they drive you nuts? The Kiss Army must drive you absolutely nuts.
Why? Why would they drive you nuts?
I don't know. They latch on to any part that's connected to Kiss. I'm like, want to know every little thing. I can
prove it right now. I'm going to prove it right now. Look at my box set.
Oh my God, here we go.
And on the top.
There you go.
Yes.
But listen, isn't that a wonderful thing? It's a wonderful thing for Kiss. It's a wonderful thing for people involved with Kiss. It's a wonderful thing for people who like Kiss. Everybody wins. At the end of the day, because you guys are fans. You need your Kiss fix, whatever it might be. Memorabilia, whether it be events, whether it be the music, whatever. It's a lifestyle. I'm just speaking for you, right? But it's a lifestyle, something that it's a party. So you need to keep getting fed.
Sure.
So of course you latch on. Maybe kissing. Those guys are gone. So you need it from someplace else, or at least that's how I see it. And you never play Plasmatics. We had also some amazing fans back in the day, and I think it's a great thing. I mean, Joey, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about having great fans? It's pretty good, isn't it?
I think it's great. I just, the Army's nuts. I'm just going to tell you, the Army's nuts. And then the Army's so big that Kiss will do something and half the Army hates it and half the Army loves. You know how that goes.
Oh, well, that's different. I don't watch as much what the Army does. I don't know if Paul really watches how much the Army does. I'm sure everybody, you always keep an eye on your stuff. No matter who you
absolutely.
are, one way or another, especially when it's something as big as this, like you say.
Yeah.
But think about it.
So we've got a few more questions here. Steve H67 wants to know, is Jean going to the Kiss Army Storms Vegas in November? Have you been asked to come to that?
It's been mentioned to me, actually.
Okay.
Do you know the guys from Pop House, since you have some ABBA connections? Do you know the guys from Pop House?
Actually, I'm going to meet up with them at some point. But I don't know them well. But I'm sure that one guy, I think Bjorn from ABBA is involved in the whole Pop House thing, isn't he? Because I know him. That goes back way a long time ago.
Yes.
But I spent a lot of time in Sweden. A lot of time there. I lived there for a while. I recorded there. I had ABBA's studio locked out for 4 years, from 85 back in the day. They weren't using it that much. And I was sitting there, and I just got my deal. And it was a whole different price than recording at Media Sound or things in New York. And I always liked adventures. So I was like, it was cheaper to bring my whole band over there, get everybody apartments, get cars, and be there for 2 years than it would be to record on 57th Street.
Incredible.
To be honest, if you do, and I always like to do things in a fun way. It's more exciting for everybody, going to spend time in Sweden, not to mention the perks of Sweden. But anyways,
well, dude, if you get booked for Vegas and you're putting a band together, I'd love to jam with you, brother.
Yeah, think of Joey.
So what are you doing now, Joey? What are you actually doing right this minute? Are you in a solid situation, or you're
just playing? I teach a lot. I play with Eric Martin from Mr. Big. I did the last H. Frehley record. Just same as everyone else.
Busy.
Just working, little here, little there.
Got you. Okay, well, let's keep in touch for sure. Are you going?
Yes,
you go to Vegas, right? As of right
Not
now?
yet, not unless I'm booked. Hopefully.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Chris Flood has a question. Jean, who was better bass player, Ohio Players bass player or Sly Stones guy?
Oh God.
Woo.
I like them both, but to be honest with you, I really do. And they're a bit different. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. I mean, Sly Stone had some amazing stuff. Hard players too. It's pretty good comparison. I'm familiar. I can't answer that. I think they're both.
So let's see. Steve H67 has another question. I'm trying to get to all of them, guys. I promise. Did you get to hobnob with anyone backstage at Live Aid in '85?
Ozzy. For one thing, there's a picture of me, Paul, myself, and Ozzy hanging around.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm sure there were others. This is a long time ago, guys. 85.
Did you guys know it was going to be as big as it was?
Nah.
No way, right?
No. There you go. Like what we were talking about before. Right?
Yeah.
That's just like you thought hip hop was going to die.
Yeah. I just remember loving it.
Yeah.
That's one story. That is one story that I keep in my pocket. I saw Run DMC in concert. I'll never forget it. And it was before, they had a tragedy. But before that, I got to see all three of them here in Atlanta. It was amazing. Here's an interesting question. Interesting question. So you said your father was Haitian. Chuck McFarlane wants to know: do you speak Haitian or Creole?
Yes, I speak Creole and French.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Decent Swedish too.
Yeah, well, that is amazing.
How would you say Funny Pooney is a piece of garbage in French? How would we say that?
When you say that.
So brutal.
Seeing in my mind what the women look like in France and Haiti and Sweden, I think I'm going to learn those three languages too.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been to Europe?
I have.
Yes.
And
Sonny gets to travel.
I have not been to Sweden yet. That is on the bucket list. Yeah.
Oh, you
okay, so I can tell you this.
How about you, Joey? You like Sweden?
I've never been to Sweden. No. Yeah, I would love to be. Yeah.
I had a student. I had a student that that was just this handsome kid. I always thought to myself, I bet this kid at school, the girls like him. And they went to Sweden on a school trip. And when he came back, I said, what was it like? I hear the women are beautiful. He said, the women are beautiful. The men are beautiful. He goes, I was the ugliest person in the whole country. I was like, whoa, that hit that kid hard.
That's kind of how you can feel sometimes. No,
yeah.
I discovered it a long time. I speak about it in my book, actually. I get into some funny details about the culture and how they think and how it's a different culture than ours, how the women are not dependent on the men, Here, it's a whole different ballgame, it's very different culturally. But I always found it to be an intriguing place. They've always been advanced. And even when I went back there in 85, I felt it. I remember going there and the clothing. You talked about clothing, Joe. There, you could find everything. That's the difference.
Wow.
I had 1-2 shops in New York, but I'd go to Sweden and there'd be that guy. All my outfits with drums along the mohawk. Some guy making some fantastic fringe velvet stuff.
Great.
And, we had like 501 jeans here. They had 501, 2, 3, up to like 18.
Incredible.
I'm not joking. I remember making a deal with Levi's. They had so many numbers. I'm like, and we come back here, we got our 501s. And they just had it was just something, even the way the girls danced at the time. The way the girls are dancing now in America, they were dancing like that 20 years ago.
Amazing. Amazing.
And
so,
music. As you
yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about. How much did you get a chance to work with Eric Carr?
I did get to spend time with him. I liked him very much, and his lady. They were he was really a nice guy. I was involved in the pre-production rehearsals. Because again, since Paul and I, we spent a lot of time together besides what I actually did recording with him. So it'd be like one of those things that we lived in New York at the same time. We spent a lot of time together. So for example, it'd be, let's go tonight. There's something happening at China Club or blah, blah, blah. Or something like that. I'm going to be in the studio from 4 till blah, blah, blah. Why don't you meet me at the studio or we're going to go to the rehearsal first at SR. Then I'd meet him there. Then I'd go to rehearsal. Then I'd go to the studio. And that's how I ended up playing bass on some songs sometimes. Because it was casual. It wasn't like, okay, we book a session for you to come play on this song. It was one of those things where, you're here. Why don't you play on that song? Boom, boom, boom. I'd play on that song. It was very casual. Almost like I didn't even think about it at the time. I loved the fact that I was playing on it. Of course, I don't think I wasn't honored, but it wasn't like I was it wasn't until years later that they actually spoke about it.
Right.
And I read about it somewhere in a book or somebody told me, "Oh, you play bass on Kiss albums?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "Yeah, I did." I guess I did.
Sometimes I bet, John, that you probably didn't even know that what song you were playing on or what it was. And I've done so many tracks over the years that I don't even know what song it is. Like even when
Sometimes
I did the last Ace record, I didn't even know what the hell I was playing on. I just, laid down some basic tracks.
That's right.
And then, a year or so later, 6 months later, I'm hearing, this is the finished track that you laid down. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even remember doing that.
That's right. 100% right. That's how it was at the time. So it was, really casual that way, the way we'd do that work.
So, there was one more thing that I really wanted to talk about. So Kiss is done touring, and their future is avatars. When you first heard about this, how do you feel about this? Do you think that this is what they're shooting at? Like what Pop House is shooting at this is the future of, entertainment, not all entertainment, but a kind of entertainment. How do you, like when you heard Kiss is going to do this, what did you think?
Well, here's a perfect example of what I was saying a little while ago. Did you ever think that it's a company out of Sweden that would end up buying the biggest band in the world, pretty much?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So that shows you what I'm talking about. They were doing ABBA avatars and that whole big theater thing already. It's already done, they're into the billions of dollars in entertainment. So it's, always kind of knew that was the direction that he'd want to go in because it's smart. I mean,
Right.
you can't play forever, you know. And what is it that every musician wants? I mean, they're at a different level when it comes to that. It's supposed to leave some kind of a legacy behind. Well, that's the ultimate legacy because that one's never going to die. It's just going to keep going. I mean, I have a lot of respect for those two guys. I mean, Paul and Gene are just really good at what they do. And I actually, you know, when I was younger, maybe you'd be a little bit more hard-headed, you know what I mean? Like, but as time goes by, you really watch everything. Hey, I think it's I think it's gonna do just fine. Let's put it that way. I don't know if your fans are gonna be as happy to watch have to watch avatars, but it's gonna move them into the future. And it's going to become something. So that's a very good point when I think about the fans. So how do you feel about it? Because do you feel that you're losing what you are to be a fan of?
I think that I think like for me as myself, I'm looking at it as like just like I would anything else that they dabbled in, whether it was a Scooby-Doo movie or whether it was Detroit Rock City. It's just another piece. I'm losing one, which is the live aspect, which is the main thing that we would all go for. But I'm getting something to take its place. I don't think you could ever do that. But it's like you're losing one part, but you're getting a new part to take its place. And I'm curious. I'm ready
see what it is.
See what's going on. I'm not going to be like, I'm never gonna see it. I'm not gonna say like, but what if it's awesome? I'm not gonna. Have you seen the ABBA one? Have you been to the ABBA one?
No, but I want to see it. I haven't seen it, but I heard it's just absolutely incredible. It's just going. Things have gone to a new place. You know, you have to go with it to a certain extent. You know, I mean, let's face it. We've had Kiss for a long time. How many years have they been around? They're not,
right.
I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't have them performing for 90 years. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, they're going to try. So one more thing I wanted to get out, and then I'm going to get to the other guys. The Cobra, was that the first movie soundtrack you ever had?
I'm trying to think. Yes.
So
yes.
Okay, so that movie comes out and the song's great.
Yeah. Okay.
Do other things start rolling where people go, who was that guy that wrote the song for the Stallone movie Let's Get Him? Is that how that worked? Because you've done things like I read School of Rock. I remember you did the School of Rock, Christmas. It was a Christmas with the Cranks. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
A bunch of Pet Sematary. You know, again, like Joe was saying before, it would be chances. Like Pet Sematary, the Ramones and I had the same manager. That guy, Gary Kerfuss, who got me those deals, managed the Ramones at one point, Debbie Harry at one point, the Eurythmics at one point. He actually brought Hendrix to America at the very beginning. He goes way back. But so the whole thing with that, so he was the one who said, well, why don't you guys work together? He says, I wonder what a combination would be like you working with the Ramones. You know, and he asked them, but we were friends already because from the Plasmatics. But we never really thought, you know, I went from the Plasmatics, Ramones, we were all hanging around and doing the same thing, but this was a different thing. Then I went and had a hit and a solo record. And so now all of a sudden I'm a producer, you know, so he's thinking, what if we combine those two elements, you know? But anyways, for the films, it just would happen. So that Pet Sematary, that came from that. Because the film actually, you know, loved what we had done with the first record, Animal Boy. So even though they had another producer, they called me in to do the song for that film and for Merry Christmas. And then I would just, every once in a while, it's never easy. It's not like it just pours in. You would think it would, but it doesn't. It's just like starting over each time. If I
you know, because it's funny because in my mind, when I get a record from a movie soundtrack, and obviously you're proving me 100,000,000% wrong right now, but I'm thinking that somebody goes, hey, why don't we call Joey Casada and just get him to write a song for this record? It doesn't work that way.
Well, no, it does happen, but it depends who they're going to call. There's a lot of people to call. It doesn't mean they're necessarily, you know, I've been through a lot. Let's put it this way. I've been signed to probably every publishing company you can imagine. I'm not joking. I've taken from the very beginning, going back to 1983 years, out new company out, keep my publishing, next company out. I've been through all of them. If I can say that I've gotten one movie soundtrack out of maybe 10 from one of them, maybe one, shocker. That was it.
Wow.
All the other ones come from me being in the club and, oh, John, I'm making a new movie. Yeah. Oh, it's real. Okay, that's that one. Or Christmas with the Cranks. That was the big one. That's Christopher Columbus. Little Steven was involved in that. That was a good one. School of Rock happened because that just happened. School of Rock.
That movie was huge.
Ramones song. They wanted that Ramones song that, they play it for like almost 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes during the movie.
Yeah.
So
but a lot of times it happens because you're networking, you're just hanging out, and people know people, and you're a good person, and they know of your work, and that you seem like you're easy to work with, and that's just how things wind up happening. It's not always about merit, Joe. You said, it's not always about, oh, he just did the Cobra soundtrack. Let's sign him for the next soundtrack. It's not always about that because it's about person. Yeah, you would think it is. You're right, but it never is.
It never is. It's always, and especially now these days, I don't know if it doesn't have the same value. Back in those Cobra, a film like that, we could really help each other. I mean, this video was playing all over Europe. It was much bigger in the rest of the world than it was in America, for one thing. It was huge in like other countries. And it was amazing how the two worked together. They loved seeing, like France, for example. They were like one of the biggest American records ever released in France, because it was that thing. I have a philosophy about that too. Jean Beauvoir is my name. It's French. You can't get more French than that. Their biggest author is a woman named Simone de Beauvoir, famous for many years, right? So that's one. Next thing you know, one thing my manager told me when I wanted to keep my name at the beginning, he says, Jean, there's only 2 things that don't work in America: French and Japanese. At that point, because and I was like, oh, I still want to keep my name. But the funny thing with France is that I think the fact that because of what he said, all of a sudden they found something to couple themselves with the biggest action star in the world.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect marriage. They put me on TV shows, all of a sudden we started selling 30,000 records a day. That thing was flying. Cobra's playing all over the streets on big screens. It was an amazing thing, and they used it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To say, yes, we are involved in Stallone. You know what I'm saying?
That's something that you said to us before we went live was really interesting. You had mentioned the difference between the Cobra movie and all the other Rocky movies was the fact that Stallone movies were always he was the underdog. And so this movie where he was immediately the badass getting out of the car.
What a great point. Yeah.
And it changed the way people looked at him. And he was able to do other movies like that. Now,
but if you notice, he always, in the end of the day, he always had more success as the underdog.
Yep.
Right? Even when he gets later on, he gets into the newer Rockies, and he's still there. He's still under. It's like, because that's people get used to seeing people in a certain character.
I think it's also partially his look, right? I'm not saying he's not a good-looking guy. I'm just saying he's not the normal Hollywood Tom Cruise type beautiful actor guy. He himself is the underdog.
You better watch your mouth, Sonny Pooney.
Look, you're by far the ugliest alone.
He is a handsome man. Shut up.
It's like, but those Rockies and those movies, they just come on, they were so touching. Everybody's crying leaving the studio. You're not crying,
of course.
Yeah. So let's go ahead, Joey. I see you want to ask a question. Go ahead.
So out of all, obviously you've done so many things in your career, all the stuff, the soundtracks, the Ramones, Kiss, all the stuff we talked about. Is there something, obviously with licensing deals today and how things work with publishing, what, if there is one, if you can pinpoint one, what is still reaping the rewards after all these years? Is there one thing that you get a check, something's coming, there's a licensing deal for this song that's everywhere in the world, or a movie what would you say would be your one thing that you've reaped the most rewards from?
Okay, it's not going to be one because it's a combination of things. It really is. 'Cause I probably, like you said, I'm on what 800 albums out there or something like that. So you're getting things from different places like that. Some movie soundtracks you made better deals than others. Movies don't let you keep publishing, for example. That's almost like a never happens. Feel the Heat, believe it or not, is one of those songs that you wouldn't think, but that's probably one of my biggest earners, even more than my stuff, my co-writes, strangely enough. It just keeps, I don't know, keeps, because the world is big, so you just see more millions. It just keeps going for some reason. But it's been a combination for me. Not one, Joey, I can really say particular. It's really a combination of different things. It's almost like they're calling it the long tail. I heard somebody say that, it's a bunch of little, make sure that you have all the things because Kiss, Ramones, that, this, that. Oh, then there's a movie coming out. Oh, then there's that coming out. So there's always something. And then we always have to create our own things. So I mentioned the horror thing earlier that I'm not going to mention film, but like that inspired by, you come up with these things or things that are gonna grow your catalog. They're gonna get more stuff out there, and and every once in a while you have a hit. Like every few years I had a K-pop hit a few years ago, 3 years ago or something, a couple of number ones, but that wasn't anything. Even that, as a co-writer with X amount of people, it's not as much as you think.
Right. Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's the B side of this question. In today's world, with obviously with sales different, streaming and all that stuff, how much has that changed you being a co-writer and a publisher and all this other stuff? How much has that changed? Big time, right?
Extensively. It's changed. It's a big deal. It's pretty straight math. I mean, back in the day, you'd write a song but even then I had a weird philosophy, which made me make some mistake because I was like, instead of writing with that person, I better write my own album, engineer, produce it, own everything, have the label, and I'm going to make more money than I could make if I sell 2 million working with that person. And that's not always true. I remember thinking about that when, a couple of people, when Johnny Bon Jovi was in Europe and we were supposed to write, and I was like, hey, look at all these beautiful girls. And next thing I had no interest in writing, I'm thinking out because it was the time where I just had my solo hit, everything was great, girls are everywhere. That's the only thing I could think about.
Of course.
That was it. It's almost like you saw Scarface. Scarface.
Oh, yeah. Of course, yeah.
America, first you get this, then you get the power, then you get the woman. I said, my manager would call me, you got to come back to America. Your record's like climbing. You got to come work this. I said, why? I've already got the woman.
Hey, so musically, is there anything that it's a two-sided question? One, how about the record if you're stranded on an island that you got to have, and what do you think about? Is there any music out that bands or anything that's really grabbing your attention now?
I'm still a little bit of an old timer. I find myself I'm sitting here. Lately, I've been listening to old 70s disco and R&B, or I'll go back to, some Kiss stuff I was listening to, or Zeppelin. I've been, for some reason, I love that Heart rendition of, in
Stairway.
Cleveland. Yeah, I love that. So I'll turn that on. I'll listen to that 3 times. Or lately, I'm very wide. And as far as new artists, there's nothing's really been gravitating. I hear some good songs that I like because I keep my eyes on everything because I do pop. I'm a songwriter and producer and an artist. I like all kinds of things. I like to combine elements, But off the top of my head, Bruno Mars is talented, really good. But there's nothing really that, wow, this new band, this is the thing. It's not like the way we used to feel. Like when Kiss came out, when Zeppelin came out, when this one came out, and it's just not the same feeling that, I think we've lost a lot. We've lost a lot in that, and musicians have lost a lot in the streaming and like you were saying, the publishing money, everything's just not the same. Because even I still think the same. Sometimes people say, oh, even if somebody has a hit, if it's not a radio hit as a songwriter, it's almost useless. To be honest with you could have a song on a Beyonce record that sells. You think you're gonna make $10,000 maybe, and the thing sold like 1 million records. You know what I mean? No, not streaming. With all that streaming money, the 0.2, it's a joke. You don't see any. You saw Taylor Swift go. What, she had 400 million. They sent her $100,000 or something like that. I mean,
incredible, isn't it?
This has been really bad for our industry.
Yeah.
Like I said back then, you had a fix. I digressed a little bit. I was trying to tell you had a fixed thing. You'd have a deal. You'd have a certain amount of points. You'd write a song.
Of course.
Each song is worth 9 cents. You times it. Kiss comes out. They sell 3 times platinum. Down times this many record times.
You know exactly what you're getting, right? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
Colin here has a question. He wants to know, you have any Ace stories?
Ace stories that I don't have. I have not spent a lot of time with Ace, not at all. Even though John Ostrowski, who works with Ace, was a co-writer on my book. It's so funny. So I know him well, but I have not spent a lot of time with Ace at all. Even though we sang together, we performed together in New York or Jersey at that first Kiss event that I did some years ago.
Oh, that's cool.
But that was it. We just ended up on stage together. We said hi for a minute, but we don't really know each other well.
Interesting. So before, as we're getting ready to start winding down, I guess one of the questions that I want to make sure people know, you guys make sure that you go ahead and bookmark his website right now, so you guys could go and check it out. Anytime he has something new coming up or anything going on, you can check it out. You obviously wrote a book a couple of years ago.
Right.
So people should be looking out this year for a new record or anything like that.
I have a new record that's almost finished. I've got a couple of things I'm working on my documentary to follow up this book. And actually, I've got to go to Nashville to do some writing. One of the people involved in my documentary is a woman named Liz Rose. And I think I might have mentioned that she worked with Taylor Swift, a bunch of country people. So I've got to go down there. And I'm probably going to add another couple of songs. And then that record should be done. And then I do other things, like I just became an executive director of a foundation here called Music Alive Southwest Florida, which kind of helps. It's the same guy who runs School of Rock down here. So it's kind of to help musicians, help to get them exposure, help them to get them work, kids that want to learn how to play music, don't have the money. We kind of find scholarships, give them scholarships and all kinds of stuff to try to, get the local whole Southwest Florida, get a little more action happening down here.
Absolutely. And I see that you did you did a rock and roll fantasy camp as well.
Yes, I did that a couple of weeks ago. That was fun. I had a great band, great guys. I've been keeping busy. I'm always doing something.
Yeah, you're like Screwball down there in the corner. He's always every time you turn around, he's like, "How did you get this?" But anyway, Sonny, you have any final questions before we go?
Well, John, what I wanted to say is, okay, so I'm of East Indian descent. I've been a rock fan my whole life, right?
Okay.
And when you start kind of deep diving certain musicians and, the spider web leads you to Jean Beauvoir, and then you find that, oh my God, there is some diversity in this music. I completely latched on, right? Because there isn't a ton of diversity in the music that I listen to, unless you go overseas, like Garish and the Chronicles, or some of these guys that are coming out from India or Nepal, or those guys. But they're not main musicians here. Nobody knows who those people are, right?
Well,
so I appreciate that there was diversity in the music I was listening to. And I like all that funk and the groove and all that, and you could hear it in the songs that you were writing. So I appreciate what you do and what you did and what you are doing, because it felt like it was somebody that was different than everybody else, and that was kind of cool.
Thank you very much. I mean, that's something I've always tried to, try to be yourself and not be pigeonholed into things. That has its positives and negatives, because after my first solo record, when I got to my second record, Then all of a sudden, there's a new A&R guy in Columbia, and he's like, oh, does this guy, he should be on the black floor. Why is he on this floor? And literally, that's what they were saying back then.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I was like, I'm in trouble now. Yeah, I was telling my manager, we got to get out of this deal. And he said, to be honest, he said, we got to get out of this deal. And he said, just, okay, I can say it. He said, yeah, just make some bad demos. We'll get you out. Because the guy, we just didn't agree. We released the first single. He didn't agree with it. When hits are about things all falling in place in time. It's not just about a good song, it's not about this. It's everything has to be in place for a hit to happen or for success to happen. And sometimes, so I knew that was over. So I managed to get out of that deal. And the next thing you know, I ended up signing with Columbia again. The same label in a different country. But for worldwide.
Amazing.
But different A&R guy, different everything, right?
Well, yeah, when you're in a different country, they don't care what color you are.
Well, there was a problem with that, and that was one of the reasons why I spent a lot of time in Sweden. Because when Drums Along the Mohawk came out, he did Al Teller loved the album. And he said, this is one of the greatest albums, blah, blah, blah. I listened to this record. He signed Michael Jackson. He said, I've listened to this record as much as Michael. He was paying people this, vacations, everything. But he had a hard time at radio. They were little slots, there's Prince, there was this. Things were still, and the floors, they had departments, they either go market, urban, or they go market pop rock. You're not Springsteen, and you're not, Kid Sweat. You know what I mean? So,
right.
So they're like, wait a minute, it's a kind of funky, but it's this. And then there's rock guitar in there, and there's drum. What's going on here?
That's amazing.
It was a little bit crazy. It made things difficult. But I always stuck to your point. I always wanted to. So sometimes that made it difficult. But I always believed that songs were good songs. I wanted to break barriers. I believed I wanted to write with whoever I wanted to write with if I liked them. I just did something with Lita Ford. That she was somebody on my list that I wanted to write song. I spoke to Sebastian Bach the other day. Maybe I'll write something with him. I like variety and whatever, and getting out there and just doing as much as I can. It's fun. It's because I'm very creative. My mind's always going.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so thank you very much for being here. We really do appreciate it. And I really hope we get to hang out face to face in Las Vegas. I hope you get
that. I hope you guys are all going. You don't know, Joe. You're gonna see, right? Still,
we'll see. Yeah.
We're waiting to see. We're gonna pack Joey in a bag and just bring him like Mr. T style. We're going to hit him with the knockout drug and put him in a bag and take him. But thank you very much for being here. We really do appreciate it.
Well, I enjoyed it. It was really a lot of fun. Okay,
absolutely.
Guys. I hope to see you all soon.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Okay, you guys out there, once again, thank you very much. This has been our 500th show. We are getting ready to go and do that extra show for all of you people on our pay side behind the paywall. And Joey, you have anything to add?
No, Jean, of course, what a great way to celebrate 500 with us with an amazing guest. Couldn't be any better. Couldn't be any better.
I was a part of it.
Absolutely. Sonny?
No, thank you, Jean, for joining us. And just wanted to say I was in Rockin' Pod this last weekend, ran into Chris Vickery and Philip Hill and some other folks that are main listeners of ours, and just appreciate running into everybody. So,
yeah, really cool.
Good. All right.
And the one thing about this show that I wanted to do is we know that Jean has been around a while and he's done some shows. We wanted to make sure that we talked about as much different variety as we possibly could for you guys out there that don't know him, so you could get to know him and get into his music. Go check it out. Start with the video for Feel the Heat. I promise you. It's so great and it's so good.
And buy his book. Go buy his book right away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
When is the documentary expected to come out?
Well, we're still filming, so.
Okay.
So we're still filming right now. So.
Okay. Well, when it comes out, you
I'll
come back
definitely
here.
let you know. Definitely.
Yeah,
let you
you let us know. You guys know what I'm going to say. We love Kiss, and we love Kiss podcasts, most of them anyway. And you're going to hear the commercials for all the ones that we love right after this in 3, 2, 1. Peace.
know.